The gentle chime of silver against porcelain had always been the familiar music of our dinners, a quiet reminder of stability and routine. But tonight, the harmony was broken. Each note felt strained, as though someone had taken a beloved melody and twisted it out of tune. We were seated at the Gilded Lily, a restaurant Clara had selected for its elegance. Everything there was carefully curated to exude refinement. The butter molded into swans, the wine list thick enough to be a novel, and the prices extravagant enough to make my bank account shudder. Joining us were Omar and Nora, our dearest friends from college, people who had seen us through youth and into adulthood. And of course there was Damon, Clara's business partner. His slicked back hair and rehearsed grin made him look more like an actor than a professional. For half a year, he had been an unwelcome presence hovering around my marriage. At first, his name slipped casually into conversation, just another colleague helping Clara with her ambitious marketing project. But soon his presence became constant. The late nights at the office multiplied, the casual mentions became daily references, and Clara's warmth toward me turned into a silence so sharp it cut deeper than words ever could. Tonight, the mask of subtlety was gone. Clara's adoration for Damon glowed brighter than the candlelight at our table. "Damon, tell them about the Johnson account," she said, her manicured hand resting boldly on his forearm. My stomach clenched as Damon launched into a long-winded explanation of their supposed achievements. Omar and Nora did their best to keep the conversation flowing, but I found myself struggling, my words stiff, my focus drawn again and again to the way Clara's eyes lit up. Not at me, but at him. It wasn't dinner. It was theater. I was no longer her husband. I was the silent extra in her little stage play. Clara kept the show going. "You wouldn't believe how sharp Damon is. He just gets business like no one else. And the connections he has, oh darling, they're endless." She beamed at me with a smugness I had never seen before. I forced a smile, the same fake expression I had been wearing for months, a mask that had begun to feel like another layer of my skin. Damon rambled on about projections and profits until Clara, with dramatic flair, pulled out her newest toy, a rose gold phone. She had claimed her old one broke in an accident, but I knew better. That phone hadn't been broken. It had been discarded, because it carried secrets she didn't want me to see. "Oh, you must see the boards Damon designed," she gushed, holding the phone aloft as if it were a sacred relic. That was it. I had swallowed her digs, her performances, her feigned indifference for too long. The humiliation of being sidelined in my own marriage had worn me down piece by piece, but inside me, anger had been simmering, growing hotter each day. Tonight, I decided, the storm would break. "Actually, Clara," I said, my voice startlingly calm against the lively chatter, "I think I have something to show everyone too." The table froze. Damon's monologue sputtered to silence. Clara's hand stopped mid-swipe on her phone screen. All eyes turned to me. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small USB stick. "I found this in your old purse," I said evenly, my gaze steady on her. "The one you claimed you lost." Her face went pale, her polished confidence slipping as sweat gathered at her temple. "I plugged it into my computer yesterday," I continued, still composed though rage pulsed beneath my words, "and what I discovered was enlightening." I pulled out my phone, connected the USB through an adapter, and projected the screen onto the restaurant's wall. The first images appeared, grainy but unmistakable. Clara and Damon, not in an office but in a cheap motel at the edge of town, locked in an embrace, their lips tangled, their bodies pressed together. More photos followed, each one stripping away any possibility of denial. Intimate, damning, irrefutable. Gasps rippled around the table. Clara's eyes widened in horror, her voice breaking into stammers. That's not what it looks like," she choked, though the tremble in her tone betrayed her. Omar and Nora sat in stunned silence, as if they'd just witnessed a tragedy unfold in front of them. Damon's usual cocky grin dissolved, leaving behind only fear. "Oh, Clara," I said coldly, my voice cutting through the tension. "It's exactly what it looks like." I swiped to the next slide. Emails, text exchanges, even detailed records of her so-called business trips to that very same motel. The betrayal stood there, projected larger than life, undeniable. "You've been lying to me for months," I said, my voice trembling now with contained fury. You sat across from me, from our friends, and paraded this farce in front of us all, thinking you were clever, thinking I wouldn't notice. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but they meant nothing. They were too late. I was doing it for us, she whispered hoarsely. For the company, for our future. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. For us? You've destroyed us. While you were chasing success and clinging to this pathetic excuse of a man, you abandoned your marriage. You abandoned me. Omar and Nora's faces were heavy with sorrow, and I turned to them with a softer tone. I'm sorry you had to see this. I didn't want to involve you, but I couldn't let the lie stand any longer. Damon finally tried to speak. Look, man, this is just a misunderstanding. Shut your mouth, I snapped, my eyes locking on his with such venom that he went silent immediately. You are filth. A coward who feeds on another man's life, another man's happiness. You are nothing. I turned back to Clara. Any lingering love I once had for her was gone, extinguished completely. I want a divorce, Clara. I've already spoken with a lawyer. You'll be hearing from them soon. I gathered my phone and the USB drive, my chest heavy with both sorrow and an odd sense of release. I'm done, I said, rising from my chair. You've had your performance. Now the curtain's closed. Clara broke into sobs. Damon muttered useless words, but I no longer cared. They were no longer my burden. My eyes turned forward, toward something beyond the ashes of what we once were. As I stepped out of the restaurant, the night air hit my lungs with a rush of clarity. The clinking silverware and shallow laughter inside faded into nothing but echoes of a past life. For the first time in years I felt free, grieving, yes, but free. The illusion had shattered, and in its place, a raw and honest beginning emerged. The world may have collapsed for her, but for me, at last, there was peace.